What is up, guys? In this video I'm going to be going over how you can get easy wins in Fortnite Chapter 6 Season 4, or what I like to do throughout the course of the game if I really want to win. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below how many crown wins you've been able to get so far this season. So this season the medallions are incredibly good, which we will get to later on in the video. But the POIs for these medallions are also incredibly chaotic. So landing here is a huge risk. And I think what the safest thing to do to have an easy start to the game, but also keep you relevant in getting these medallions, is going to be to land at one of the OXR shops that are around the map. Preferably one of them that has the bug icon, because when you fend off the bugs, you will get a special OXR drop, which has solid loot, a good amount of OXR points, and then this will also drop the forecast boon, which will allow you to see one zone in advance for the remainder of the game, which is a huge advantage if you do actually want to win in a battle royale. If you are trying to play, safer or more geared towards the wind, getting forecast will help you a lot. So landing at this OXR shop kills so many birds with one stone. You're near the medallion POI, you get really good loot, you get that loot quickly, you have the potential to get forecast, and you're going to get a good amount of OXR points, which is going to help you throughout the course of the game to get other things that we're going to talk about. The loot you get from this drop is typically pretty high rarity, and I pretty much always get a shockwave launcher. It's not guaranteed. I have had times where I didn't get a shockwave launcher, but it seems like 90% of the time I'm getting a shockwave launcher from the drop that I get from fending off the bugs at the OXR shop. So you also get the best mobility item in the game right now, which is going to give you a huge advantage on other players. So these shops are incredible, and if you want to win, I would highly recommend landing there. These shops also have an okay amount of loot and a few OXR chests, which again can give you high rarity loot and a potential shockwave launcher if you didn't get one from eliminating the bugs. And then there also is weapon cases inside the shop where you can buy loot with gold if you want, but I typically don't need to do that. The loot I get just from, playing is fine. Each of these shops is also near one of the medallion POIs, and that is another thing that makes it really good, because they all have launch pads as well, which will allow you to quickly get to the medallion POI and clean it up. Like, hopefully you're able to clear your shop and get to the medallion before the boss has been eliminated, but that's not always going to be the case. Either way, though, you should be fast enough to be able to catch them while they still are in the kind of POI where the medallion spawns, or at least around the area. So you hopefully can, catch them off guard, maybe catch them in a chaotic situation, because as I touched on at the start of the video, these medallion POIs are very chaotic. So if you show up as they just eliminated the boss, you're probably going to have a somewhat easy time eliminating them, and that should help you get one of the medallions. The movement medallions this season are incredibly good, and having them will give you advantages in fights that other players just won't have. Like the double jump medallion, there's nothing else in the game that replicates that right now. So if you're the one player in the game with that medallion, you have a huge advantage on everybody else. And then the same is true with the slide medallion. So having these, I think, definitely increases your chances of winning every single fight you get into. But also, if you have them, you don't have to worry about playing against them, which is another kind of like benefit for you. You don't go into any fight with that massive disadvantage because you already have them. So I would highly, highly recommend trying to get them. I think they're very good. And they also help with one of the bigger, I wouldn't say problems this season. The Swarm Strike rocket launcher is incredibly good, and there will be times where an enemy has this and you might just straight up die and there's not much you can do. But if you have the double jump medallion and you know the enemy is trying to hit you with the rocket launcher, the double jump will allow you to easily dodge the rockets, and so it's a counter to one of the more difficult things to deal with in the loot pool. Also, if you want to use the Swarm Strike rocket launcher, it's easier to make it work when you have the double jump. So these medallions are good. The slide medallion could also be used to dodge the rockets, but it's just not as foolproof, I would say, as a double jump one. Hopefully, after clearing out your shop and third-partying the boss area, you've reached A tier, and this will allow you to open the exotic weapon bunkers. And I think this is very good because you get a solid amount of loot from these bunkers. And then the exotic weapons this season are very, very powerful. And in a lot of cases, the exotics are actually better than the mythics. Like the exotic Wrecker revolver, I think, is better than the mythic one. The exotic OXR rifle, I think, is better than the mythic one. So getting these exotics, again, gives you an advantage on other players in the fight, or other players in the game and you won't have to end up playing against them if you're able to get them. So I want to get to A tier as fast as possible as well, and then hopefully get to the nearest weapon bunker, and hopefully you get an exotic that's good. They're all solid this season, but my two preferred one, or the one I want most, is the exotic Wrecker Revolver, and then the exotic OXR rifle I also really like having. The double trouble shotgun is good, but not as big of a deal to me as those other ones at this point in time. After I've gotten my bunker, I will typically go for the other medallion players, and the way the timing of the game works out and where the bunkers end up spawning, sometimes I do end up fighting them before the bunker or like kind of around the bunker, but it just kind of depends like on the placement of the bunkers in that match and the timing of the game and where those other medallion players end up going. But either way, after I've gotten my bunker, I want to get all the medallions because, as I already touched on, the two movement ones are incredibly good. The shield regenerate one isn't that incredible. The shield regen is kind of slow, especially when compared to the Daigo medallion from last season. But the way the medallions work this season is once you have two, your circle for your zone reveal to other players is so small that you might as well get all three. Like, the information advantage you give other players going from 2 to 3 is kind of irrelevant because 2 is already such a precise indicator of where you are. And that is one downside of having these medallions. But I think the pros of the medallions and the movement bonuses you get from having them definitely makes up for giving away your location. And with how fast-paced this season is and how fast you can go with those movement medallions and your shockwave launcher, as long as you're staying mobile on the map, I don't think the zone reveal is really that detrimental to you. So at this point in time, you should have gotten your forecast boon. Hopefully you gotten an exotic bunker, and now you have all the medallions. Once you've done all this, I feel like there really isn't much to do in terms of blanket advice. Like, now you're just kind of, I would just typically be going around the map and looking for other players to fight. But like, kind of as I've touched on in several other videos, typically when you've done most of these objectives, like you've gotten one of the medallions, you've gotten the bunkers, you went and got the other medallions. Once you've done all this, you typically have gotten rid of the more proactive players in the lobby. And those tend to be the better players. It's not like 100% of the time the medallion players are the best ones in the lobby, but typically the better players in the lobby are the ones who are willing to fight for these objectives. And so once you've taken them out, you've reduced the threats in the lobby. Like, there will be other people left alive, sure, but if they're just trying to hide and, stay out of conflict and not really fight for these objectives, they're typically not the most confident fighters, and so you should have an easier time clearing them out. But like I said, at this point in time, there really isn't much to go for, so I just kind of run around the map and look for people. With Forecast, you will see the zone, so you'll know kind of what parts of the map you want to go to. In 4th zone, there will be a drop that spawns, which has legendary slurp juice in it, which is the best healing item in the game right now, in my opinion. So I would like to get that, but it's not as big of a priority as something like Island was in the past in 4th zone, and it typically doesn't really have many people going for it. This season in general, I've seen a lot of people saying their lobbies are really dead, and that's kind of like what I'm touching on at this point, where like once you've gotten all these medallions and you've gotten the exotic bunkers, you're mostly just looking for bots and people who are playing quite slow. So you should be able to clean up the game once you have this really good loot and you have all these movement advantages with the medallions. As far as the weapon loadout I want this season, this may end up changing because I made a video on it earlier this season and Fortnite already changed things with updates. But I typically want to carry an AR. My preference is the OXR, but if you like the Fury or the Hammer, that's fine. I think they're all good. The Wrecker Revolver and the Sentinel Pump, and then I will swap back and forth between them in close range fights. You could do double pump with the Wrecker Revolver and another shotgun. You just can't carry 2 Wrecker Revolvers at this point in time. The Shockwave Launcher, like I said, is the best mobility in the game at the moment. And then my final slot will be heals, and that would really just depend on what I get. So I would like to have the legendary Slurp Juice. Sometimes I end up using them, and then I have to carry Big Pots or Flowberry Fizz. It's kind of whatever. I think the legendary Slurp Juice is the best. The exotic Slap Fizz is good as well. And then the rest is just kind of, I'll take what I can get. It really just kind of depends moment to moment. If I can get the exotic Wrecker Revolver, as I said, this is the exotic I want most, I will use that without swapping to another shotgun because it has a faster hipfire fire rate. And so that frees me up to drop my Sentinel Pump for the Swarm Strike rocket launcher, which is incredibly busted even after being nerfed. This thing obliterates cars, and anybody that you catch in its blast radius is going to be an easy kill. And the fact that you should have went and gotten the double jump medallion is also going to make this rocket launcher incredibly easy to use in close range fights because you could just double jump up and then shoot it down on the enemy. So if I get the exotic wrecker, I will drop my sentinel pump for the swarm strike. If I get the exotic OXR rifle, I do like having that one. It's incredibly good. And the double trouble shotguns I think are also very good, but I still prefer to use a wrecker revolver and then one of these shotguns. So I'll drop my sentinel pump for one of the double trouble exotics. But if Fortnite ends up nerfing the exotic, or if Fortnite ends up changing the wrecker again to where you can't use it and another shotgun, then I could see the double trouble being like one of the preferred close range weapon setups. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys found this. Actually, one thing I also want to touch on is going to be S+. I have a video about how to get to S+ if you do consistently want to go for that, but I don't think it matters that much in terms of helping you win. Like the boon you get for getting S+ where you have unlimited stamina and sprint faster, it's great, but oftentimes by the time you get it, there's only like 1 or 2 players left anyways. So if you really want to win, I don't think putting a high priority on getting S+ and like farming the bugs all game, I don't think it really matters that much. But if you want to go for it, you can go for it. That is going to be it for this video, though. As always, if you guys did find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.